Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fab Four podcast. And we have a special guest tonight on the podcast with us. But first, before we get to our special guest, let me go ahead and introduce everyone, just in case you didn't know. If on your screen there, you've got a 2018 Taylor County High School graduate, Mr. Alic Williams. You've got a 2019 graduate in Ben Bertram sporting his Reds jersey tonight. And then all of a sudden you get to the old guys. 1985, Campbellsville Eagle graduate Scott Franklin, and I hail from 1985, Adair County, who, by the way, Campbellsville did beat us in that district, but, you know.
Yeah, we did. We beat you 3 times that year, just to keep count.
I know. But, hey, I scored a bunch of points, so.
me too. Let's laugh at that one, too.
Yeah. All right, so on to our special guest tonight. We've got Richard Gatewood. Richard, how are you, sir?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good. Now, Richard, for just a little background here, Coach, we refer to you as Coach Gatewood. I don't really ever talk to you when referred to you by your first name. It was always Coach, but you coached at Taylor County for a while. For how many years did you coach Taylor County?
3 years. 2014, 2015, and 2016.
I got you. All right, how many regions you win down there?
Two out of 3. Should have been 3 out of 3.
Ain't bad, is it?
No.
Well, Coach, what we're going to do here, we're just going to do a little round robin, throw some questions at you and let you go and just enjoy the time with us, kind of get reacquainted. So we'll start with Alic. Alic, you go ahead and get started first.
All right. Well, let's just go ahead and start with the big one. Richard, I know a lot of people did not like your decision to leave Taylor County. After you go into 22 feet and that kind of being a whole mess in itself, do you ever wish that you stayed at Taylor County?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about, you know, the difference between prep and high school ball. And I said, the thing that you can't duplicate is the crowds. And I was telling some of my players this year, and I even got online YouTube games and was showing them some of those games when we played against Campbellsville and Adair County, you know, and Marion. And they were like, I was like, listen, guys, it didn't matter if it was a Tuesday or a Friday night. If we played a rival district or in general, we played somebody good, everybody in that town was in that gym. And I said, it was a different kind of gym because it was an old school gym where, you know, it went all the way around and you're right on top of each other, you know, and I was just trying to explain to them that the atmosphere was just unmatched. And absolutely, I mean, I think about it every day. You know, we think about it from an aspect of our 3 boys, you know, being in school there, you know, because it was a great school district, you know, but, you know, everything happens for a reason. You learn from your mistakes, you know, but I tell people all the time, it's the best job in Kentucky. You know, they love basketball there. You've got administration that supports basketball. Then you've got a community that loves basketball. You just got to hope that, you know, if you win, you're going to be hated. So, but, you know, I do miss coaching there. I mean, the crowds, the community, I mean, you got Clem Haskins sitting in the, you know, in the end zone every game. So obviously, yes and no. You know, it's got its pros and cons when I left. When I left, I got to coach, you know, this past year I had 5 kids off that team that are playing Division I basketball when I was at 22 feet, you know, and the friendships and the, you know, everybody that I met through that has helped me in the last year off Simple Fact, because this last year, everybody knows I was at Aspire. We're going to sign every single kid that we had. But because of that year, I coached 22 feet. I mean, I know that many more college coaches now. You know, it's nothing for me to pick up my phone, and whether it's not even Division I, if it's Division II, Division III, NAI, junior college. I mean, I know coaches all the way out west now, you know, which is awesome, you know, because I can help kids at the end of the day because that's what I love doing, you know. But absolutely, I do miss coaching that atmosphere, miss the community in general, and, you know, miss coaching in those big games.
Hey, Richard.
Yep.
I'm not going to call you Richard again because that seems so strange. Hey, Coach, when you're traveling around playing in these tournaments that you guys, where did you go with your 22-foot academy, the places that you got to play, maybe some notable players that you may have – I know there was a bunch that were in things you guys were in. What's some of the players that you guys played against and you coached against that the folks might know?
Well, when I was at 22 feet, we got to play against DeAndre Ayton twice. Got to play against him in the Bahamas, actually. So the guy that runs the grind session flew 8 teams down there, played 2 games. I mean, it was a free trip to the Bahamas. I mean, pretty cool deal, you know. That year, I think right now in that one year, there's 10 or 12 guys that are in the NBA that we played against, you know. Now, did we play in the atmospheres that we had at Taylor County? Some tournaments, yes, but some tournaments there was more college coaches in the crowd than it was fans, you know, because that's what prep is. It's about – because, you know, we don't have rules. We can play on Sundays. We can play on odd days during the week, which makes it easier on college coaches. But, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's the difference, you know. But at the same time, you know, a lot of people got mad at me that last year was at Taylor County, but we played in some big events, you know, the last actually 2 years I was at Taylor County, flying to the Hoot. That's a big prep school event, Marshall County Hoop Fest. You know, I mean, there's a lot of good events that we got invited to and we got to play in to get guys like David, guys like Quentin in front of college coaches so they could get evaluated. You know, I'm actually going on a podcast in the next 4 or 5 days with Jason Frakes to talk about the difference in that. And then also, you know, with all the COVID stuff going on, as far as, you know, we might not even have a season this year. And if we do, it might not happen until January. So, but, yeah, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, Josh Green, who's at Arizona, he's going to be a lottery pick this year. DeAndre Ayton, Gary Trent Jr., Paul Scruggs, who's at Xavier, Nafale Deontay, who's at Oregon. He was a freshman when we played against him at Sunrise Christian. I mean, and you knew then he was a pro. Like, he was a freshman, and you were like, holy cow. But, you know, I mean, it had its ups and downs that year. But the basketball aspect of it, you know, any kind – and, you know, when we played there in that grind session at Taylor County, you could see the different kind of athlete. It's a different kind of game. You know, we play with a shot clock. We play college rules. A lot of times we do have college officials, you know, just in fact because of how fast the game is. You know, when – let's see, I think it was the second year or the first year at Taylor County, we had the Next Up Recruits thing. And we had Hargrave come in. And they played Hamilton Heights, who had like 2 or 3 kids off that team now that's in the NBA, you know, and you've seen the different type of athlete. It wasn't just, you know, you had 4 or 5 Quentin Goodens, you know, on that team and a couple of Davis Sloans, you know. So, you know, the events you get to play in, the amount of college coaches you get to play in front of, that's the benefit of the prep school year. The thing that did get kind of old was the driving, you know, I mean – you know, because you're on a strict budget and, you know, you can't fly everywhere. And some of these events, they'll take care of your travel and some of them won't. So you get used to driving a 16-passenger van very good. You know, I think it was one time we played on a Saturday morning at noon in Winston-Salem. It was actually Martin Luther King weekend. Then we played in a Martin Luther King Classic in Nashville. So it was the craziest stretch of games. We won that game, played a good team. Got on the road as soon as we got done, drove to Nashville that night. I think it took us like 6.5 hours. The only benefit was we got to stay in the Gaylord, you know, Opryland Hotel. Got up the next day, and our kids loved it because, you know, a lot of times it was hit or miss. It was either a Roach Motel or something decent or nice. But we got to stay in that nice hotel, played Mountain Mission, who has Oscar Tshiebwe, who's at West Virginia right now. And then he had his older brother who turned pro recently. Oscar was only a freshman, I think, and his brother was a senior. And we got to play them, beat them. Then the next day we played Legacy Charter, which is in South Carolina. They had Nick Claxton, who played at Georgia, who's now playing for the Brooklyn Nets. Played them, won that game, drove back Monday night. So, I mean, it was a grind. I mean, it still is a grind. But it was cool. You know, you're going on road trips. You're making sacrifices being away from your family. But obviously the talent level, man, I mean, it's now that I think about it on top of my head, it might be more than 12 kids that we played against that's playing pro ball now. So,
Ben?
So before I get to my question, I'm backtracking a little bit on your statement about the crowd at high school games. I personally, I take a lot of pride in that because a lot of people don't realize I was actually a young and upcoming student section member as a freshman. I guess it was your last year of coaching.
Best student section in the state.
Yeah, not only did I score 9 points in the freshman game one time, it was a whole big deal. It was a whole big argument about, I don't know, do we call Ben up to the JV team? It didn't work out, but we see how that ended up for me. But I don't even know where I was going with this. Okay, I got it. So I remember we would do a Coach Gatewood night because you were an emotional coach. Your emotions showed on the court, it shows your passion for it. And we would wear the glasses and we would stomp. Did that? Yep. I've always wondered, did that amuse you or annoy you?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, here's the thing. Anytime that somebody makes fun of you or busts your balls, like, that means they love you or you're a close friend of theirs. If they're not doing it, they're not a real friend. Let's just be real honest. I mean, every day Frankie, Chris Good, and Greg Oliver would bust mine because I was on this keto diet that my wife had me on, and I was eating like yogurt and some granola, and I wasn't having my full meal yet because they were eating at like 10:30. I'm like, who eats lunch at 10:30? Only Frankie, Chris Good, and Greg Oliver. But at the same time, no, I loved it, man. Like, anytime, that was one thing that I loved. I mean, the student section was just phenomenal. I mean, they were just awesome. And then anytime that I had some either coaches, college coaches that came in, or some old coaching buddies, or just family and friends in general they would come to our games. They'd be like, dude, that student section is unreal. Like, they're like, you won't find that in Jefferson County, only when they have big rivalry games, when a certain rival's playing each other. But I think we were playing, I can't remember who we were playing. We weren't playing a district game, but we were playing somebody good one night when a friend of mine came, and they just couldn't believe it. They were blown away. But no, man, I loved it. And then the night you guys did like an ESPN night, you had the Jersey night. Like, no, the student section was awesome. I loved you guys, no matter what.
That's all I needed to hear.
You are now validated, Ben.
Yeah. All right, y'all have a good rest of the interview.
Hey, Richard, I just want to talk to you a little bit about your family. Of course, coaching is one thing, but your wife has to be very supportive, and I know you've got 3 young boys that are. I still follow you on Instagram and see all the stuff that you're doing with them. So, take a few minutes and tell us how your kids are doing and your names and kind of. As far as their grade and are they all in basketball, or is there some not, or so?
Well, Cooper is 9 and he'll be going to the 4th grade. Harrison is 7. He's going in the 2nd. And then Jet, our youngest, is 5 and he's going to kindergarten. They are wild. Alic and Ben don't have any kids till you're 30. But no, they're my oldest 2 are in it. I mean, they eat and breathe it. I mean, they're like asking my wife questions about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and she's texting me saying, I don't know these things. Like, they need to ask you these things. She's texting me questions about what they're asking. I mean, they love it, which as a dad, I love it. The thing I don't like is they don't listen to me. They think I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's because I'm dad at the end of the day, So there comes to a point where I won't work them out because they won't listen. Now, I'll work them out to a certain point, but I have a bunch of coaching buddies here in town who do a lot of youth stuff. And, one of my assistant coaches from this past year does a lot with the youth, and he works them out, a couple of days during the week. But, no, they're ate up with it, man. Cooper is going to be a coach. Like, we played in North Carolina the last tournament in the Big Shots National Championship. We got beat in the final, but he was there, and I was going through my scouting report like we normally do, and, it's fully detailed, and, we're going over it. And during the game, he is telling my assistant coaches and players, like, that's not what that says on the scout report. Like, they're not doing that. They're not doing that right. Like, and he's 9. He knows what a hot closeout is. He knows what a cold closeout is. Like, I mean, he's very bright as it is in school. He gets that from his mom. But, he's definitely going to be a coach. I mean, he's ate up with it. He loves it. Harrison, on the other hand, he loves it, but it comes easy to him. So when I work him out, he gets it immediately, and he's a lefty too. Me and my wife have no lefties on either side of our family. And as a coach, you all know how hard it is to guard left-handed players. And so, I'm doing everything with his right hand, making him go right, because I know when he gets older, if he can go right as good as he can go left, he's going to be very hard to guard. But then he's like, all right, I'm done with it. Where Cooper's like the opposite. If I tell Cooper, you can't do this, or you got to work on this till you get it, he is going to – I think it was like right before all the COVID stuff hit, he was outside at 5 a.m. bouncing the ball. And I look out the window, and I thought I didn't know what in the world was going on. I was like, who in the hell is outside dribbling a basketball at 5:30? And I look outside, and he's out there working out. So, as a dad, it was like my proudest moment. I told my wife, she was madder than hell. I was like, can't be mad at him. I mean, how many 9-year-olds are going to get up at 5:30 and go out and work on their jump shot, because they got a game that night just to get some extra shots in, because he hears me tell our guys all the time, you live in the gym, you'll be successful. If you work hard at it, anything can happen. And, he hears everything that comes to my mouth. He's a sponge, so if he grows up, if he's not a coach one day, I'll be very surprised. So,
Alic.
Gatewood, talk about where you are now at Aspire and how that all is working out for you.
Well, this past year we had a really good year. We went 22-6. We had a lot of games get canceled because of weather, because we usually play right around 35-40. But we actually, we didn't have a lot of high-profile kids on my team, but we won a lot of big-time games against a lot of big prep tournaments, and we had a lot of kids get some recognition. We played down at the IMG Beach Blast, got invited, won 2 out of 3 games, and beat some teams we're not supposed to. But, you actually had a kid locally from there, Tosh Sanders, who had a phenomenal year. He signed with Masabi Junior College, which is an up-and-coming junior college. I can't remember the lady's name who played the WNBA, who's his coach, but he's a Campbellsville kid who came in and bought in and, told them that, if you work hard every day, you're going to get better. And, we're going to end up signing all 9 kids, which is at the end of the day, that's the goal, no matter what your record is. And we had a great year, man. It was a lot of fun, seeing kids like Taj come in who necessarily wasn't really pushed in high school. And it's not his fault. It's just because he's the best player on his team, and to come in, because we practice with our high school prep team every day. And of course, they got a kid going to Kansas, and, I told them, when you go against these kids every day and practice, you're going to get better. And what happened is, we're kicking their butt in practice every day, and they're playing at a high level, and it became a habit, so, we beat teams like Massanutten Military Prep, beat a really good team out of Virginia called Virginia Beach Sports Academy that had like 6-7 Division I kids on it. So, man, we had a great year. It was a fun year. I had a couple buddies come watch us play, and like we had to kind of go small ball because we really didn't have a true big, and it's kind of like what the NBA is going to. And me, I'm always trying to learn and get better as a coach. And in the past year and a half, when I didn't coach, basically I went and watched a lot of practices, talked to a lot of people, and just kind of worked on my craft a little bit. And it kind of humbled me a little bit, and basically seeing, I know I'll get asked this, but like Ben said, I'm not gonna lie, I used to act like an ass a couple times on the sideline. And, when you see yourself act like that, man, and you got kids, you're like, man, I should not have acted like that. And you look back in time. Well, I had an old coaching buddy who came and watched us play, and we won the game. And he came up to me after. He's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude," he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, "You have changed." And I'm like, "Well, I am getting wiser with older age, So, but no, I mean, the things that I kind of learned in that year and a half was, it's more, man, if they don't buy into you, it don't matter how good of an X and O coach you are. You can be the best X and O coach there is around. If they don't buy into you, it's not going to work. And I tell people all the time, this is why Cal is one of the best around, is because he doesn't run a lot of complicated stuff, but he gets those guys to buy in. And when they buy in, it's over, But at the same time, this past year was fun because these guys bought in. We didn't have one surefire Division I kid to come in. Now we got one that's going to walk on at a Division I, and then we got another one that's going to sign to Division I. And they came in and they just worked hard, and they bought into what we preached. And then the X and O part, took care of itself. And, I mean, we had a phenomenal year. It was a fun group because they played hard, and you've seen how much better they got over the course of the year, and that's what made me so proud of Quentin. And, seeing all these kids that come through our program that has success is because how hard they worked over that amount of years. You've seen the time and the effort that they put in, and see them be successful, there's nothing more you'd like to enjoy as a coach.
Scott?
Well, first of all, I got a few things to tell Coach Gatewood here. I got a bill from North Hardin High School for a broken chair and the torn up part of the floor. There's 3 referees that I had to take the water to on many occasions. I will not say their names, but I'm sure that Coach knows exactly some of the 2 or 3 that might be. And we'd be up 15, and Gatewood's done had a damn stroke out there over one call at the end of the half. And I'd take the water in there, and they looked at me and go, "Tell him to shut the hell up. You're going to win. You got the best player. You're going to win. Even if we screw it all up, they're still going to win by 20. And I'm going, we've told him he's a little high strung. He wants the kids to play hard. He don't want to back down, blah, 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 blah. But it was a great time when Coach was our coach at Taylor County. And I want to brag on Coach Gatewood. I don't really want to get his head any bigger than already is. But let me tell you, Coach, and McQueary and I have talked about this numerous times. I thought our guys, and nothing against any coach we've ever had at Taylor County, because we've had some really good coaches, but I thought our players were as prepared in every game, no matter who we were playing, or more prepared, over-prepared maybe, than any coach that we've had at Taylor County. And I go back to when they were talking about getting you as our coach, and I was one of 4 or 5 people that were in the meeting, and Higdon asked me if I knew anybody that knew you. And I was like, man, I don't know anybody in Louisville but one guy. And I called Marlon Miller, who's from Campbellsville, and I think little Marlon might have been the AD at Central at the time. And all he said was, "Y'all ain't going to hire Richie Rich, are you?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to find out information." He goes, "That son of a gun, we beat him like the second game of the year, and I think y'all played him maybe in some tournament or something."
LIT.
Yeah, like 4 weeks later or something. And he said, "Their players and he knew our plays better than our coach and our players." And I was like, well, that's pretty impressive. He said, "Yeah, I see him at every game. If he's not coaching his team, he's in another game watching and being prepared for what's going to come down the road." And then what me and McQueary always talked about is that if we came out of a timeout at Taylor County, if we come out of a timeout.
I'm on the phone. Stop. My dad's on the phone. She's outside. That's why you shouldn't have kids, Alic and Ben.
But we would come out of a timeout, and every time it would be something pretty dang good. And in particular for me, my brother and his buddy who really loves high school basketball, they came down to watch us over at, I think it was at Nelson County. Can't remember if it was the semis or the finals. And we came out of a timeout. And we came out of a timeout, and I said, "Watch this. We're going to run something pretty damn cool." And we ran a lob.
I know exactly what play you're talking about. It was Barstown Regional Final. We come out of halftime. We ran a lob play for Quentin. We called it open left. And basically, Quentin dribbles David out. And once he dribbles David out, he came off a lob. I know exactly. That's crazy what play I know it is. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, yeah.
But that was just an example because you did exactly what I thought you was going to do. And I was like, watch this. And I think we had some kind of back door off for one later on. But at any rate, whatever I told him was going to happen, you did it. And I commend you on the preparation of our players and them daggone inbounds plays. A lost art in basketball, inbounds plays.
Oh, yeah.
Some good ones.
I agree. I mean, when I first got into coaching, so – when I was at Butler, when we won the region in 2010, that's where the preparation thing came in because that year we had a good team, but that year Iroquois was loaded. They had a kid named Donovan Gibbs who went Division I IUPUI. Had another kid named Jermaine. What was Jermaine's last name? He went to Florida Tech and actually is now the all-time top 5 leading scorer. I mean, they were loaded. We had no business beating them. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So play them in the regular season, play them close, and they beat us like 5 or 6. Play them in the district final. So this is my second year, I think, or no, my third year into coaching. I was 24 or 25. The coach made me and all of our assistant coaches learn every single one of their sets against man and zone. for a week straight, for the last 15, 20 minutes of practice, we would scrimmage our kids. And we had smart kids because, I mean, you know, Butler's a pretty good little academic school. And we just ran their stuff against them. So they constantly knew their calls. District comes around. I think we beat them 11-12. It's close most of the game. We pull away towards the end. Completely took them away. Come back. We're on opposite ends of the bracket. We get a hell of a draw. We make it to the final. I think I can't remember who they beat in the semis. That was really good. They beat somebody in the semis, and we're sitting there scouting them, and they didn't change nothing. Not one thing. And similar situation to somebody in the 5th region, but I'm not going to name the school. And it wasn't Barstown. But didn't change nothing. No calls, nothing. Then didn't prepare for us at all either. It was a total chess match from where we just totally took them out of everything that they wanted to do, and we won the regional championship that year. And that year was the year I was like, yep, this is how you're supposed to do it. And then I was assistant for 2 more years, and then I got my first head coaching job at Moore. And that Central game, we played Central's like 4th, 5th game of the year, and they were good that year. And Doug Bibby's one of the best coaches around I've ever been around and coached against. We play them, we get beat. Make a long story short, next thing you know, we played them in the quarters or the semis at LIT that year. And we did. I mean, we completely took them out of everything they did, and our kids played really well and bought in that game. And, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is and I learned from that too, is that underneath inbounds plays, if you score, I think it's on it 3 out of 10 times in a game, you have the 70% chance of winning. And I got that stat from a guy that was following Rick Bird. There's a couple other guys in NCAA that, you know, like you said off the head, it's a lost thing. You know, they just want to get it in and then run something. And, you know, this past year, I mean, I think our rate was like we scored off of them almost 50% of the time. And that's why we were successful. And we ran probably, you know, 6 to 8 different underneath inbounds plays, but they couldn't guard us. You know, we got some, even if we didn't score, we got a good look off of it every time. And that stat is, you know, as a head coach, I kind of took that and then got real creative. And this past year, I got even more creative where, you know, you would see a team that would run 4 flat, and we would actually go into a box set into a 4 flat, and then you don't know what we're running, you know, and then we would kind of switch it. We would go to a 4 flat and then run it, you know, and then get to a box and then run it. And you're confusing teams, but no, you are exactly right. I mean, I watched some high school games this past year recruiting, and it was some of the worst. It was like they went on Google and said underneath inbounds plays, and I'm going to take that one, print it out, and I'll put it in. I mean, it's a lost art, but coaches don't realize if you score off of it more than another coach does during the game, you're going to give yourself a better chance of winning, you know, because you're giving yourself an extra possession. So,
Ben?
My next question is actually in the form of some trivia questions, so I'm going to save that for the end.
Okay. You know, we're talking about some lost art stuff, Coach, there. You know, of course, me and Scott always were impressed about the preparation and how well that I would see you with your little suit, and then when the opposite coach would call a play, you would reach in there and pull out that index card, and you knew you had your defense. You could call out the defense that your team already knew what that play was, so you could tell them what to do. That was always impressive. Another thing of the lost art is having a purpose for everything that you do. And I know a lot of coaches back in the day. I played for a guy named Keith Young that you all were really good friends back when he was at Greene County, and especially when they had good trainers over there and things. And Keith always had a purpose for everything that he did. So do you do that? Do you have I know we talked about out of bounds plays. Do you have a purpose on the tip? Do you have a purpose on the free throw line? Do you have a purpose on the side out and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So to your point, so this past year, it was funny. The only thing that sucked about prep school is it was hit or miss getting film. So being prepared, sometimes you go into games blind, which I hated doing. And you all know that from me being prepared. And in some games you could. So we're playing some good teams. You know, we're playing Massanutten at Hargrave Military Preps Classic. And Massanuttons, a very well-known prep school that's in Hargraves Conference, and they've got like 5, 6 Division I kids. Well, I was able to, get, 4 or 5 film on them. We completely took everything away from what they wanted to do. And I'm sitting there calling it out, like you said, and the coach is looking at me like, what the hell? Like, not realizing that, we would be that prepared, but we shocked them. And then we completely took them out. And that was the only reason why we won the game. Obviously we outplayed them. We played extremely hard, but no, absolutely. In prep school, I'm not saying the coaching is bad, but the level of the player, because there's so many good players that can make shots. That is the difference on the adjustment. So, you might guard a kid one half, because we play halves, that you'll have to completely change and adjust the very next half if it's not working. Absolutely. Different zone plays for different formations, if they're running and jumping. I know we pressed a lot when I was at Taylor County, but I've completely went away from that. In a year and a half that I was able to watch all these college coaches and talk to them, I was able to really buckle down on some man-to-man stuff. And this past year, we might have pressed a little bit just to throw somebody off in a dead ball, maybe 10, I would say maybe 5. At Taylor County, we pressed over 50% of the time. This past year, I want to say we maybe pressed less than 5%.
The coaches in the 5th region were always impressed by your willingness to press.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, speed them up. I bet. I'm trying to remember what 5th region game it was, but there was one team that, like, the kid kept throwing the ball like 15 feet in the stands, and they were probably – but I was a young coach too, though. So when I was at Taylor County, that was my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year coaching. Yeah. So, as a head coach. So, I was still young. I was 28, 29, 30 years old. So, I was just on the cusp of being able to pick some brains of college coaches that were coming in to see Quentin and David and some of our other guys. But no, you absolutely, to be prepared, you've got to have something for everything. Side out, there's a certain situation like this past year. We had 2 plays, one in particular, we would run, and our head director would be like, dude, he's like, it's unbelievable. He's like, you call timeout, you'll come over, you will reiterate that play so it, they know what you're running, and then it's a bucket. He's like, or you're getting a foul called, 1 to 2. So, yes, absolutely. Whatever it may be. And also it's personnel, too. You might play a team that's got a lot of really good athletes like we did this past year. Even though we had a lot of good athletes, we didn't really, like I said, we didn't press. So I kind of changed everything. Now, we played fast offensively, obviously, but, my rule was still kind of the same. Sit down and guard, get a stop, then we can run. But I would say as a coach, I have grew in the man-to-man department as far as verbiage, making it easier for a kid to know how to guard in a half court. Is it easy? No, because I'm going to be honest with you. Half the kids that I got played zone or pressed, and Taj was one of them, and it wasn't that Taj couldn't. It's just he's never been really taught. And, it's like, the certain ball screen coverage. It's a lot that goes into it. But the biggest thing with our kids was I wanted them to be fully prepared when they go to college. Like, it's not something they've not heard. And that was the way it was at Taylor County, like the scouting reports like you guys talk about. I'll never forget, it was the very first game I coached in Taylor County. We were playing Washington County at home, and I had a scout report for it. I go in Coach Gumm's office to print out the scout report, and Burris goes, why are you printing out a scout report for Washington County? Y'all are going to beat them by 50. And it was just – but it was just the mindset. That was me. We were going to be prepared not if we were playing Washington County or if we were playing Bardstown in the regional final. It didn't matter who we were playing. We were going to be prepared for that team, because you guys know how it is. And I look at it now back when, especially when I was at Taylor County, because we got everybody's best shot. I joke with people. I'm like, dude, we were like the Kentucky there for 2 years in the 5th region. We got everybody's best shot, which means you got guys banking in shots, making shots that they should not be making, and they're playing out of their mind. And we had to deal with how to play with that target on our back. And I really think that last year we did, because not only was our schedule tough, but I want to say we lost our first like 5 out of 7 or 5 out of 8 games, and then we won our next like 20 or 21. But being prepared, man, that was the biggest thing. Because if you get a coach that comes in and they don't change anything, you're comfortable, you're prepared. The only time you should feel pressure is when you're not prepared. And I wanted our guys to feel that. And I think that's why they played so loosely, in big games, especially in postseason. Like, I thought the first year when we got beat by E-Town, even though we beat them in the regular season, and we beat them bad in the regular season, a lot of people don't remember that. We played them at home, and we beat them by like 17 or 18, was our youth. And I think it was because we've never been there before, and we were young. And, David and Ezra were freshmen. Quentin was a sophomore. I mean, we were super young, But then the following year, you could see it because you could see them taking advantage of the scout reports. You could see them kind of maturing a little bit. Even though David and Ezra were just sophomores and Quentin was a junior, you could see it starting to snowball. And then the following year when the postseason came around, I thought no matter what our record was going into the regional tournament, we were going to win it all. Just simple fact because we've been there, the experience, and they were going to be prepared at the end of the day.
Coach, a lot of people, they remember, how good Quentin, David, and Ezra and that whole, all those guys. What was the guy that played Lindsay?
Brandon Berry.
Brandon, yeah. I mean, tremendous athlete. I mean, he's had several there. But what a lot of people don't know is how hard those guys worked in the off season. Of course, me being, in administration, being around the school all the time, I mean, those guys were getting up shots all the time. On that, I never will forget walking down to the track in the spring and seeing those guys running around that track, just sweating their guts out. I mean, so, yes, they're talented. Yes, they can score. Yes, they can guard. They can do all those things. But the work that those kids, and to your credit, your program, what it led to, yeah, we could have won some games with talent, but if you didn't get that work in with it, it's all for naught, really. You got to work at it. So, with that being said,
it's funny you say that real quick. I mean, cut you off, but Quentin came and watched us play. We played a prep school in Cincinnati, and I had him come talk to the guys after the game. And he goes, "Did you have them on the track like you had us?" And I was like, "No, man, we didn't really have that kind of access." He was like, "So they didn't go through the same stuff that we went through?" I was like, "No, man, they didn't." He was like, "Man, y'all are lucky." He was like, "That was hell." So I didn't cut you off.
That's okay. Ben, we're coming to you. I think we're getting close to being out of time here. Alic, how are we running, buddy?
Hey, I got time for one more question. Gatewood, you got a lot of crazy stories in your coaching career. Tell me your craziest story while you were at Taylor County.
We ain't got enough time, Alic.
Oh man, Alic, that's tough, man. I would say, man, one of them was the no trainer at Greene County, and I thought that guy was our friend, and the next thing you know, he tells Greg Oliver, I didn't know he was playing a prep school, and I never had any trouble with Keith before then. Of course, Greg comes over here and puts fuel on the fire. He's like, what he said. And here comes Chris, and I'm like, okay. He said, what? All right. And then I think we beat him by like 40 or 50. And then I made a point. So the next game, I was like, listen, we're not going to press at all. We're going to play half court man-to-man the whole game. And we still brought out running clock on them. I think it was like beginning of the third quarter, start with running clock. So that was kind of crazy. Man, there's a lot of crazy times because I acted like a fool. I'm not gonna lie. But there was a lot of good times though. I mean, I do miss the old pictures that I bring up with Cooper and when they were babies, and you look back at all the kids and not only Quentin, David, Ezra, and Brandon, but kids like Austin Webster, who you love to coach. Devin Rafferty. You see all these kids having success after you coached them. That's what it's about, and, they come back and see you when, after you quit coaching there and you're coaching prep school. And I know I'm missing a couple, but I mean, we had a lot of good players come through there, and then you get guys like, Jack Miller to come out his senior year. And, at first he wasn't going to, and then he comes out and, he wins a regional title, and he's like, thank you so much for talking to me and coming out, stuff like that is awesome. As far as crazy, I mean, gosh, Lee, there was a ton of crazy time. I would probably say the biggest crazy time was when David and Quentin showed up late from the barbershop. I would say that was –
I remember that one.
That was the time Greg and Chris talked me off the ledge. That was pretty bad. But and it didn't help that we got beat that night. But it was good that it happened because it lighted a spark. So, but
Frank, last question, brother.
I don't have any more questions for Coach.
Okay.
I mean, I could tell about 15 stories on Gatewood, but I've been sworn to a 20-year secrecy, so I can't speak on things in regards to some of Gatewood's actions having fun. But I poke fun at Gatewood. Coach was a wonderful person to have around. We had a lot of fun. He was just very intense. And like he said numerous times here, he was young and he was passionate. And I know he rubbed people the wrong way, but we were pretty dang good. And it wasn't just because we had really good players. We did have really good players. But we had a good coach, and he got them to play hard, and he wanted to win, and he wanted to make a point that we were really good and we were going to play hard the whole game. Now, sometimes that made people upset. It made our own people upset sometimes because he felt like we should back off. That wasn't his style. And like he said, I bet he's really learned a lot. And I hope, Coach, that wherever your direction is after you get out of Aspire Academy someday, I don't know if it's to be in high school or to go to college, but certainly wishing up but the best. And I expect that you will do more great things in coaching.
All right.
I
So
appreciate it. Hey, I got one quick funny story real quick. It's only a second. So I'm not going to name the official. I ran into an old 5th Region official who coaches college now. Officiates college now. One of the better officials ever come out of 5th Region. And he says, man, I tell you what, we went and had a beer. And he goes, I appreciate you yelling at me all those times. And I'm like, why? I'm not going to name the college coach either. He goes, because you make such look like an angel child compared to you. And I'm just like, well, you're welcome, man. He's like, no. He's like, seriously, it got me ready because he does Division I now and he's in Division II. He's like, it got me ready. He's like, people think you're bad. He's like, let them sit behind a bench at a college game. He's like, you're like a golden child compared to some of those guys. So, but yeah.
all right, Ben, I'm trying to get to you, buddy. Trivia questions for you. Here we go.
All right, I'll keep it short, like 2 or 3. First one, here we go. All right, you played 100 games. You coached 100 games when you were at Taylor County, exactly 100. How many games did you win?
80.
Yeah.
100% right.
Yeah.
800 win percentage. Exactly right. All right.
80-20.
All right. Well, I feel like this one's easier. This next one. All right. You of your 2 region titles, what team did you beat both times? Same team.
Oh, he don't want me saying this. Barstown.
Yep. All right. So the first state game that was won, we put up 94 points. Who'd we play?
Mason County.
Yep. 100% right. I got to make these a little bit harder, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
Listen,
Here's a good one.
If I can remember a play that
I was going to
Frank
say.
about,
All right.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Here's
Go
my
ahead.
favorite. All right. You mentioned the story about Burris saying we're going to beat Washington County by 50. How many points did we actually beat Washington County by that game? First game you coached at Taylor County.
That's good. Ooh. I'm not going to get this right. I know it's like 52 or 53 maybe.
The answer is 50.
Yeah.
50.
Exactly.
wasn't
It was
close.
100. It was 100 to 50 in Taylor County's
so
favor.
right.
Burris was exactly right.
Never doubt Bird Daddy. He knows all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he knows it all.
I'm just glad we got Washington back on the schedule last year.
Played him 3 times, Coach.
Oh,
it took them
man.
a while to ever come back. I mean, all right. What else you got, Alec?
That's it. That's all I got. Everybody else
Richard,
got anything?
thank you for joining us today and reliving some old memories of Taylor County and having some fun with us, tell some stories, and we really appreciate it. And as Scott said, we wish you nothing but the best and would love – speaking for me personally, love to see you back on the sideline and at a high school somewhere. I think you do so good with getting kids ready for that next level. Who knows where you might go? We might see it on the sidelines at some big Division I school. So anyway, whatever happens to you, we wish you the best, and we'll always be rooting for you, even though, a lot of people around here would hate us to say that, but we're always rooting for you.
Oh, I already know. Hey, something funny. Mr. Higdon told me when I accepted the job. He's like, it's going to let you know there's going to be a lot of people that's going to hate you in the next year. And I didn't really realize it till then. I'm like, well, hell, there is a lot of people that did. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This was fun. No, it definitely was. I really do. Brought back some great memories and definitely was fun.
Alic?
All right. Well, this is all the time we got for you today. We will be back on Wednesday with the trainer from Last Chance U, season 3 and 4, Rebecca Martin from Independence Community College. Isn't that right, Frank?
Independence Community College.
Try that again.
Alic.
Try that again.
Come on, Alic. Gosh dang.
Been in the sun too much today, I guess.
Get off the golf course. My God.
Sorry, Frank.
Get a dang job.
This has been the Fab Four podcast.